Well, howdy doody doodles, here we are again, Southern YGO's race. So, I still can't play in actual tournaments because there aren't any. And yeah, so I've just had all my cards on my desk and I've been playing around, and turns out the Duelist Academy had a list similar to mine that did really well. So I'm going to tell you all my thoughts about Shaddolls right now. So, the main thing that made me have a look at Shaddolls, apart from the fact that the format is solved, it's something different, is this card, Gale Dogra. Pay 3k, send any card from your extra deck to the graveyard, and thanks to a certain new Shadoll fusion, this means that in Shaddolls, this is search any Shadoll, then trigger any Shadoll, and then it becomes a light off of one card, which is like Stratos on crack. On top of the fact that you can also use it to send the Ash Dragon Titanclad, the Dogmatica card, and gets that engine started. I decided to actually play this over Alistair, and it's pretty damn good, if a little hard to find good copies of them. Next up, we have what is my current Shadoll lineup. I really didn't want to just play one beast, but honestly, most of the time I only really want to resolve its flip effect off of Wendy. So one it became, essentially, you don't want too many Shadolls in hand, and everything, plus its draw could be anything, as opposed to these Shaddolls, where they kind of are a little resource loop via Squamata. So with Gale Dogra, this means that these are all guaranteed +1s into what you want, whereas Gale Dogra Send Beast is just a draw, which is fine, I suppose. But there are loads of times where I'll do stuff like if I'm triggering Hedgehog, it will get me a Squamata. Squamata send Wendy. Wendy some another Squamata. So on my next turn, I need Squamata to get Hedgehog to get, well, not another Squamata, but you know what I mean. A heavier Shadoll lineup means that you get to keep playing Shadolls as its own engine. The one I saw from the Duelist Academy ran 2 of this, 1 of this, and 2 of this, which I get it. It means that you draw slightly less brick your hands, because if you open 5 Shaddolls, it doesn't do anything, which is valid, I suppose. But I've always been a fan of a bigger Shadoll lineup, and I use all the ones that give you extra cards, and then the one dragon for the utility. You just don't know if you're going to go into some sort of control matchup and then it's invaluable. I've seen people cut this down before. The one from Duelist Academy played that. I'll continue to play this. I just like the fusion spells. I've seen an actual full Shadoll profile not play this card. They both have strengths for their own reasons. This is, I think, just an outright better card where it just lets you play, especially with the Dogmatica engine. But of course, we all know that Shadoll fusion can send from deck. So, good fusion spells. Want to see them. Even if they clog, then Dogra or whatever can send Apcalone, then get rid of them. The Shadoll traps. Schism is like the best card in deck. You only ever need one, and it's pretty searchable the way you play this deck. So 1 Schism is fine. Being a Miracle Fusion on either player's turn, and then it gets to send stuff. Pretty godly. And then Restore Incarnation is similar to Dragon. It's in here purely for a control matchup. I don't know if you noticed I'm not playing Aerial, because where this is a go first deck, that play with Aerial doesn't really do much going first, and to do that you need to be able to send Trick Clown or Damage Juggler, which then aren't doing anything else, and you need to send exactly Squamata or Wendy to then get you into the play, and then even then it's like, I have an Appaloosa, I guess. So this is in here. You can do certain plays where you like set a dragon or a Squamata and send this, so that on your opponent's turn you can banish it to get a pop or interruption, I suppose. But this is also really good for the grind game, like I said, with dragon, even stuff like Eldritch or whatever, just because it keeps looping the fusions, which are how you win the game. So there's Restore Incarnation, and then there's the engine that I think everyone saw coming, Dogmaticas. I'll try and keep this bit short. This is like Gale Dogra, and it's really good, and +1s and all that sort of stuff. I did find myself wanting a second Ecclesia a lot of the time, so I did bump it up to 2. Fleur de Lis is like just the icing on the cake. There's so many times where you just have everything else, and then Fleur de Lis is just the extra card. Plus, off of what's it called, Gale Dogra, it can send Titan Clad, which gets this and then gets this, because it would be useless to get this on the end phase. But Punishment, I know a lot of people run just one of this. And we've all read it says that you can't use your extra deck on your own next turn. That's fine. Shaddolls have a trap card they'll let them utilise on your opponent's next turn, and the quick play spell. And especially if you're playing more control-y based stuff, then I think this is really invaluable, because they'll usually only have one or two ways to out the winda. If you can grind past that, then you're in a definite advantage. And it means that you can... Winda is just so good at controlling the game. So I want to see this with winda really, really often. So essentially I have... 8 copies of it. So it's pretty good. And I actually wouldn't play any lists. I know that it doesn't do a lot on its own, but it is also kind of engine. You can say that clone. The last card that's definitely in my list is Damascus, just an to Mystic Mine. It's the best one that this deck has, I suppose. Next up, other stuff you can fill in the last 9 cards with, or that I might. E-Telly and Ghost Ogre. So Wendy is a psychic. You can summon it off of this, so it turns it into another Shaddoll if you need it. It can be defense in the fact that it can summon this. It's something that I thought about for a long time, switching this out for Wendy, but a lot of the time I'll just want the Wendy, so I just kept it as it was. But you can run that. Then, so I'd kind of given up on this format for quite a while until someone pointed out that this card exists. I only just realised that it has a burn effect, but this allows you to hard stop the combo decks that are doing all the really, really unfair stuff. That means you can't win the game if they just resolve their combo by summoning out these bad boys. So when it comes to hand traps, a lot of the one-for-one things, and even Droll sometimes, just if they have a good hand, then they win the game because they can play through it. Especially with the one-for-one interaction stuff like Imperm. Is like, great, I need another extender in my deck full of Dragon or Warrior extenders. And we all know about Miscellaneousaurus in Dino. So where I think this is the correct thing to use against Dragon Link specifically, because when they go through Hulk Fiber, actually lock them into waters and then they can't play. I think this is better overall, because off of the Isolde, they summon like Genba, and they can lock them into lights, which is usually the end of the turn, against Infernoble. Against Dragon Link, they're gonna a lot of the time they get Ingredient going for the Vylon Cube, which I guess it's just free value, but you lock them into lights and then they usually can't do too much else from there. And then against Dino, you do this when they summon the Animador and Archosaur from Miscellaneousaurus, which they can out, because most of the time the Archosaur will pop a card in hand to then get the pill. The out for that they have is that the pill needs to be able to banish exactly one Dino and one non-Dino. So they have to have a non-Dino in hand, as I assume they've popped like a baby or whatever. So it's an out, but it's really neggy for them, because they then have to pop another card to then flip it face down. So I maybe wouldn't main this for locals, but for YCS I would. And then yes, the statue for the other scenario. And the fun thing about Gizmek Uka is that if you're especially against Infernoble and Dragon Link, to the summon of say Isolde or Needle Fiber, you can summon this, and if you draw the Uka, then you can use it because the summon will resolve for them afterwards. Then you can also just fill it up with hand traps. I couldn't be bothered to dig out my imperms, but you know what hand traps are. Consult your better YouTubers for which ones to run. You could expand the Shaddoll engine. I wanted to bring that up. So yeah, you could. I maybe would side this against back row decks. The Duelist Alliance list ran this. He also ran Needle Fiber, so I guess those sort of plays could happen. A lot of the time I find just having this card in general is better than Falco. It's not the worst card in the world, but it's kind of not that great. As I said before about Ariel, if you're not doing the big combo with it's got Trick Clown and Ariel, then she's not that great. I mean, we all know about the triple DD Crow effect, and of course this is 2 out of 1, but especially with the way the extra deck is so tight, I just don't... They didn't do a lot, so that's why I took those out. Searchable Light Target, and in decks, or in versions of this deck where I have 39 cards, I usually include Second Beast, as it's just it's Shaddolls engine. And sometimes you want a second beast every once in a blue moon, so it's not the worst card. I would include Upstart, but I think that hard loses to Droll worse, so there you go. Shadow Games is just a really good card in the Shaddolls deck. It always has been. It's just a little slow at the moment for my taste, but especially where you can do stuff like flipping aerial to like summon back cards banished for previous aerial. And the other thing with Shadow Incarnation is a lot of people do want to run two of this, because you can do this combo with one copy and then do the looping with another, because both of those are really, really strong, and of course you can't do it with just one copy of Shadow Incarnation. But realistically, like, two is a brick, so I probably wouldn't run the second. And then that's all of the Shaddolls stuff. Another engine card that I just didn't include, Forest Burial. Yeah, a lot of the time you don't really use it's like either set a monster off of Wendy or like send Squamata, send Beast, draw a card or something like that. It's really weird, the hands that you want Foolish in, and it's just not that impactful. I find that its utility isn't even that needed, so I've dropped Forest Burial. You can run Super Poly, everybody knows this. I'm not. I don't think the matchups are quite there for it, especially with Buster Lock. It doesn't out that. Like I said with Gale Dogra, where Gale Dogra searches more things than this does, and it's a light, I think that's better. Or it can be a light as well. Yeah, plus this hard loses to the Droll a bit harder. And then the other things you can do is increase the Dogmatica engine. I have tried with the third Ecclesia. I did see the Dogmatica stuff a bit too much, but it's entirely valid. And then the Duelist Academy deck did run one Maximus. I don't entirely understand why. I mean, it does work in this deck, but you have a million ways to make Winda. Because that's what this deck, it makes Winda on your opponent's turn, and then usually tries to have a way of making a second Winda when they inevitably out it. And even if you then don't have to make the second Winda, you can make another construct or app clone or whatever. There you go. And then because the Dogmatica bits lose to Droll, you can also run Call By, which I did for a little bit. There you go. That's the main deck stuff. Now I'll go for the extra deck. I'll get through this quickly. I've wanted 3 of each of these. Many a time, a lot of first turn players go through one construct, and sometimes you need more than one construct to push. After that, if you've gone through their turn, they've outed one Winda, you've gone for the second. If they survive another turn, you usually want a third Winda, but no space. And then with the app clones, sometimes you resolve 2 searches and then you want to make one, usually off of Schism. Or even if you do make send one and then make one, then you can't really use the search off of all the other stuff, like if you draw a Gale Dogra, so you do want the third one. Titanclad literally is here for Gale Dogra to start off with Dogmatica. It's a lot of life points, but it's quite a strong play, especially if you have an okay hand behind it. And then Untis, because you need it for Dogmatica stuff. So between the pop-off of Punishment and Fleur de Lis, one of the problems Shaddolls had was they didn't really have a way of, like, in Archetype, destroying stuff that isn't by battle with Construct or with flipping stuff. They didn't have inherent negation, which Dogmatica fixes, but a large part of that is Untis. So my sort of middle ground for not having a third of each of the fusion or a second Untis is Omega. Also fits in with the Gamma stuff, but it means that you can kind of recycle what you need. It's a little slow, but it's the best I got. Next up, we have the OTK package. So I've tried taking out either of these at different points, but where this makes access code bigger and where this gets you to this, it's just so powerful. Like, you have to run all 3 of these to OTK them. It's quite good even with a follow-up, because Selene can reborn Winda, which can then add back another spell or trap so you can interact on your opponent's turn. And then Gale Dogra requires these cards, because there are a bunch of times where you need to make a construct by getting to a fusion spell Shadow off of Gale Dogra, turn it to an Almage, into a Secure Gardener, make the construct, send what you need, usually like Schism, and then you turn it into a Gravity Controller, which then adds it back. And then you at least have a Shadow in graveyard, and this is Dark on Field, so you can make the Winda. But that is a really tight 15 card extra deck. The other extra deck cards that I kind of want in are each of the main ones at 3, which I can't fit in. One Shek, which can be used for Gale Dogra, if it gets impermed or whatever, you can have El Shaddol, you can turn it into Shekhanaga and it resolves. And Shekhanaga is an okay card. And one Grista. Duelist Academy list, I can't remember his name. He ran one of this. I know you can use it with Schism and Almirage. I just don't like it enough to take out any of the other stuff where I have no other room. You could run this, apart from the fact that it clashes horrifically with the Dogmatica stuff, and the Dogmatica stuff is far more valuable in this deck. Another Otis, I said I wanted it. This is my sort of Lambda is my sort of stand-in for any of the stuff you need to use with Gizmek Uka, because of course it locks you into an attribute. With the Barrow statue, I mean, you can make construct with the Light Barrow statue, but I still think it's valuable to have a link 2 for it. And the last thing is Blacklust Soldier, because it is pretty good. Thank you very much for watching another deck profile-ish thingy. I'll try to make it quick, but at least it's not the 23-minute version. Ta-da!